back, folks, to the season of encounters. That's right, season 5 is upon us. Tonight we're talking about Walla County, Washington. But the time of Bigfoot investigator like me to take a long, hard look at Walla, Washington. Well, tonight we're gonna find out. That's for sure. Starting out with a little bit of news and Cameron Young's top 5 tonight. Bound to be a great show, so sit back, have a drink, and let's get at it. Hello, everybody. I am the host of this mess, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and we thank you very much for joining us here at the Squatchers Lounge Podcast, Season 5, the season of encounters. That's right. Unfortunately, YouTube's taking some tools away from us, so it's a little less showy this season, but we're going to figure that out as we go along. As usual, as we start the top of the show every week, we have a little bit of news to get through, so let's take a look at what the old Reverend found on the interwebs for you guys this week. There's a whole lot of stuff that's just not making any sense. There we go. Now we found what we're looking for. Since we have to do things in a strange fashion, it's taking us a moment to recognize what it is that we are looking for. And there it is, the news. That's right. Coming to you from Team Crypto again this week. Westbrook Wessie froze to death, experts say. Comes to us from an article January 6th, 2017. That's right. According to expert Wessie, the snake is likely dead. Snakes are cold-blooded, and the drop in temperature almost certainly did pour old Wessie in. They still have hope for the giant cryptid snake's return. There's a slight chance that concerned citizen of Westbrook, Maine, could have offered our favorite reptile a nice warm home for the winter. According to the Boston Globe, they say likely seen the last of the big snake that created a media sensation when it was spotted eating a beaver along a riverbank. The Portland Press Herald reports a state biologist says the snake, dubbed Westie by Westbrook, Maine residents, likely didn't make it past October's due to the cold weather. So you can check out that article on Team Crypto. Coming right up, another good news tonight. Coming to you from the GorillaFund.org, the historic silverback Cansby. That's right, he earns his name a second time because he's back. If you remember, the lounge reported a couple episodes back when Cansby was gone and nobody could find him. Well, the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund trackers reported that elderly and historic mountain gorilla silverback Cansby, who disappeared from his group on October 10th, could not be found despite weeks of massive searching, was seen in his group on January 4th. Although the group was at some distance from the trackers and would not allow them to approach, a closer look on January 5th provided evidence that the gorilla was indeed the missing Cansby. Due to his man's age, now 38 years old and beyond the statistical life expectancy for mountain gorilla, the Fossey Fund had earlier have fallen ill and gotten left behind, but subsequently died. Since intensive searching over a month-long period did not find any trace of him. Well, on their regular monitoring of Cansby's former group, January 4th, Fossey Fund trackers were shocked to notice from a distance of about 10 meters that an extra silverback was in the group, which is now led by Cansby's son. I can't pronounce his name. There's too many, it's just tough. Anyhow, they returned the next day, determined to get conclusive evidence, including a closer look and photographs to determine the condition of the gorilla. I mean, it's just awesome. Cansby's back. Check it out. TheGorillaFund.org. It's a big deal. You can read the rest of the article there. I love when there's happy endings to things like this. It's the mountain gorillas, although, we haven't respected them, or they deserve to be kept around for, a few more decades at least. Let our children's children see them in the wild before they have to go to a zoo. Okay. CCHeadliner.com. That's right. The mysterious case of the Oklahoma Bigfoot. One of the most noticeable traits they've noticed over the years concerning the cryptid critters we call Bigfoot is their individuality, which in his opinion shows that they are not far removed from us in the family tree. Some of them are almost cowardly, acting in spite of their powerful physique and tremendous strength, while others go to the opposite extreme of putting on an aggressive, threatening display that can be downright terrifying to witnesses. Somewhere between these extremes, watch, and they act like they're surprised by and quite curious about this virtually hairless critter that they find themselves confronted with. I'd like to sit down with the guy who wrote this, Sam Updegrove. He's been fascinated with the unexplained since childhood. He began actively investigating paranormal incidents in his late teens and has continued for more than 4 decades. Now retired and a cancer survivor, he has lived in southwest Missouri Ozarks for over 30 years. I mean, the article goes on to talk about, some of his direct correlations to Bigfoot. I personally, I agree they've got to be strong, and they I've seen the size of them, but how much that exhausts power, I'm not really sure. But there's another great article here at the ccheadliner.com. All right, let's move right on next down the line here. On the trail of Bigfoot in North Dakota. That's right. Thanks, Dean, for the Google search of the Bigfoot, their key phrases there, pal. Purported Sasquatch footprint near Ellendale, North Carolina on Christmas. Wow. I mean, that thing's got toes in it and everything. That's pretty slick. The footmark in the middle of it, is that from somebody trying to show size? Probably. I'm not really sure. Dickey County, North Dakota. Chris Bauer of Ellendale, North Dakota, has been a trapper all of his life, and he knows the outdoors and is now a true believer in Bigfoot. He tracked or creamed is the legendary Sasquatch. He says December 24th, a woman attending a family Christmas gathering at a rural home north of Ellendale claims to have spotted a large hairy creature outside. Bauer knows the family, and the following day he checked out the reported sighting. He found big footprints leading from the farm and followed a track into the snow for 7 miles. The footprints are 18 inches long and 8 inches wide with a 4-foot stride. Bauer says while following the track, he ran into a stench so severe he was almost sickened. Also, he says that he was an eerie silence throughout the area. No animals, no birds, something the experienced outdoorsman says is very strange. Chris Estes didn't investigate, but did see photos of the footprints taken by Bauer. He was surprised by what he saw. He says either an elaborate hoax someone put a lot of work into, or there may be validity to it. Well, maybe you ought to investigate into it if you want to lend any validity to it there, jackass. Anyhow, Bauer has forwarded his photos to the internationally known Bigfoot expert at Idaho State University. He should be able to determine if the footprints are a hoax or maybe some type of There you go, folks. On the trail of Bigfoot in North Dakota. At least it's not on the trail of the black snake. Yay, no daffle. Okay, Bigfoot. Speaking of tracks in the snow, I wanted to kind of this one came across my feed here and got a whole lot of talk about it. Now I've seen foot tracks like this in the snow, and boy, they really do kind of look interesting. And I give you a moment here. I'll let you guess. Gave you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count as to what I'm going to think they are. Now, they have wide openings on both sides of it with small impressions in the front. Jackrabbit or bunny rabbit or snowshoe hare, something of that sort, bounding across, as it moves. That's where you're going to get this big 4-foot bound. It's on the move. The big feet come in the back, and the front feet land, and then they launch off again. That's why you don't see anything in between. I can see deer track in the line as well. This is definitely on a game trail of some sort. Not thinking Sasquatch, unfortunately, in this particular case. I don't know. I wasn't there. I need a whole lot better detailed pictures. Maybe spray paint the tracks pink next time so that we can actually get a contrast of what the steps look like, and maybe that'll help out. You can do that without melting the track. Anyhow, if you guys saw it out there, leave in the comments what you think these things are. I say snowshoe hare. I don't think it's Sasquatch. I don't really have enough context in the picture to really even be able to tell how big the tracks are. So it's all over Facebook in the groups, I'm sure, by now. Yeah. Following that up, holy cripes, people. I don't even know what to tell you, okay? Bigfoot, Ormond Beach, Florida. The Ormond Beach Bigfoot dig. Now, he's looking to raise $250,000. The campaign was started 2 months ago. Not a single penny has been raised, and thank God. Apparently, this dude has some big, long, elaborate story about him and his people living in the beach at some kind of a sideshow, and they had some kind of an animal in a cage, and there used to be a large billboard on US 1, and they had this critter, and they killed it, and they buried it. Of course, it always comes down to an Indian family. The Seminole Indian family lived there for a while. They had a little village where they wrestled alligators and stuff. The story is hilarious. The guy's got a fabulous storytelling idea, asking for $250K to dig up a friggin' plot of dirt. It's a bit much if you ask me, but Ormond Beach, yeah, that's a very strange place for a Seminole Indian family to have buried a Bigfoot way day. But boy, is this story fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you because it's actually a very long story. However, if you want the link for it, say so, and I'll make sure you see it, because my goodness, yeah, 58 years old. Wow. Bigfoot in Ormond Beach, Florida. Let's give me $250,000 to dig him up. Okay, and finally tonight, ending on a good note, Darren Lee tells us first annual Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. That's right. If you're living in Nebraska, February 17th and 18th, 2017, at the C3 Hotel and Convention Center, Hastings, Nebraska. We'll sell you the entire seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Friday, February 17th, evening, Bigfoot and Bonding, popcorn and movie. Showing with actors and producers of Something in the Woods, which is actually a good flick. Saturday, February 18th, 9 to 5, Nebraska Bigfoot Conference open to the public. Lyle Blackburn will be there, the author of The Beast of Boggy Creek. Stuart Miller and David Ford, producers of the movie Something in the Woods. Robin Roberts and her dog Rue, Sasquatch investigators of the Rockies. Mike Johnson, Sasquatch investigator of the Rockies, will be there as well. Tickets are only $10. That's right. They'll be available at the door by contacting the conference coordinator. For more information, visit the website bigfootcrossroads.org or contact Harriet McFeely, conference coordinator. Yep, that's right. Email bigfootcrossroads@outlook.com. Lodging at the C3 Hotel, 2205 Osborne Drive, Hastings, North. Yeah, that's Nebraska. Okay, Ted, there you go, folks. Too bad. A little bit of news doesn't hurt so very bad at all. I guess this is the time of the show when I usually have a quasi theory or a camping tips for stupids for you, but unfortunately those fellas are tied up with real life. So I'm bringing you Cameron Young's top 5 Bigfoot books. That's right. Number five. That's right. Number 5 is the Bigfoot Casebook by Janet and Colin Board from 1982. That's where we're going to start out tonight. And let's see here. Number 4. That's right. Number 4. That's number 4. Bigfoot Prints by Grover. Dr. Grover Krantz. Gotta make sure you call Doctor. They're Cameron, or he gets upset. 1992. Book number 3 by suggestion is The Year of the Sasquatch by John Green, 1970. I actually have a copy of that. They're very delicate, so if you get a nice to them, because when you sell them on, somebody else is going to appreciate that. That was number 3, The Year of the Sasquatch by John Green. Let's see here. Oh, going along. The number 2 suggested book is On the Track of Sasquatch by John Green, 1980. Guess what? I have a copy of that one too. They're like a color series. One's green, one's yellow, one's red. I think there might be a in there. And the number one Bigfoot book of the top 5 Bigfoot books of the week is Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us by John Green. That's right, 1978. Those top 3 books are actually, they're a good read. There's a lot of good information in them. It's solid on what evidence is based on, mostly in Sasquatch, what real, what true investigators are looking for, solid types of evidence and footprints and hair. There's a lot of questions still left because we just don't have the evidence for you. So there you have the top 5 books from Mr. Cameron Young. All right, moving right along, shows progressing nicely as usual. It's time for Shout Out Lounge. And I didn't screw it up, and I don't have to restart the show like we did last week. That's pretty good. Let's see who's hanging out here in the live chat room tonight. There's a whole bunch of people out there tonight. Of course, we've got our head cheerleader, Starshine. If you don't watch it, she'll send her assassins after you. Oh, look, B. Lynn stopped in to see us tonight. Awesome. She likes to see us live, but it's kind of difficult for her to get into it. Let's see here. James the Grower, how are you doing, sir? Glad you could join us as well. Mr. Frank Smith, he's hanging out with us. Of course, your top 5 list guy, Mr. Cameron Young, he's there in the chat room with us. And the quasi there is himself, Mr. Dean Cooper's checking in, even though he's got other real life things he should be doing. He's still hanging out with us. That's a cool dude. Very much appreciate that. California Picking, that's right. If you want to know about antiques, talk to that guy because he picks them here and he knows what he's talking about. And look there, it's our now playing center field, batting third, Mr. Kurt Harris. Hey, how you doing there, pal? Glad you're feeling well enough to join us tonight as well. Let's see who else is going on. Oh, there's Mr. Director, Mr. Writer, Mr. Photographer, Mr. Bigfoot Actor, Mr. Collier Wilmus. That's right. He's hanging out with us as well. Nocturnal Emissions with Cole. That's right. Oh, no, that's right. Urban Legends Anonymous. That's what they landed on. And I think it's killer. The first episode is in the mix already. We'll be seeing those coming out as a brand new podcast in sometime pushing towards spring, I'm sure. Who else is hanging out here? You guys chat a lot, and I love it. Mr. Don Reif is in the house. How you doing, sir? Glad you could join us as well. Lots of people here early on. Mr. Rod Dupree, he's always in the place to be. That's right. Dave Stump. How you doing, man? And you can join us tonight. Let's see here. Who else was there? I know there were more people, and I just won't be able to get all the way to the top. So if I missed you and you didn't say something at the bottom, well, I'm sorry I didn't get around to you tonight because that's kind of a bummer. But those are my shout outs to the lounge live watchers. Glad you're with me, guys, because it's going to be a doozy. Hey, you know where we're going tonight? That's right. We said it at the top of the hour. We're going to Walla, Washington. Why would we go to Walla, Washington? Well, if you follow me on my tour here, you're probably going to find out. There we are. That's right. We're taking a beautiful look at Walla, Washington. There's a few reasons that we would go out here. If you look, of course, we have this fabulous mountain range that just happens to be tipping the edge of Walla, Washington. And when we get into our encounters, I'll bet you this is probably where most of them actually come from. From Rose Springs, just outside of Walla, Washington, basically the Blue Mountains run right off of the edge of this. There's the beautiful town of Walla. Let's find out what we're talking about tonight. All right. So back in as early as modern, let's get into contemporary times here. Well, here's some early ones. January 2000, BFRO field investigator finds Sasquatch tracks in the snow. That's right. a group of friends and I took 3 different trucks up the Black Snake Ridge at 12 p.m. to look for evidence of Sasquatch activity. Once we made it to the top of Black Snake, we were in 4x4. The snow a bit, and we were heading back down. Once we were heading back down, it was the back following the 2 other trucks. I was far enough behind to lose sight of them. When I was looking for tracks along the road, I came upon a series of tracks that warranted investigation. I came to a stop and got out and videoed the tracks, which came out of the woods, crossed over the roads, and went into a slash pile and back into the wood line again. Their friends turned back to see if they might have gotten stuck, and they were shocked by the tracks when he pointed them out to them. They followed the tracks all the way back to the wood line, and they faded out due to the wind and the snow. They got back in their trucks and headed back exit. So yeah, here's another one here, another Class B in December 2000. So that is just later that very same year. Mill Creek Road in Walla Walla, Washington. While walking along the Mill Creek constitutional path, the witness Harley Michaelis observed large barefooted tracks along the trail. Harley estimated the tracks to be 18 to 20 inches long, 9 to 10 inches wide. He also noticed a smaller set of tracks along the other side. Harley said that the second set of tracks were about 10 inches long, and he followed the tracks as he came to the wooden bridge and lost the tracks there. Harley did not report his sighting until 14 days later out of fear that he'd be considered a nut. His words, not mine. That happens a lot. People tend to report things because they're afraid of how they'll be accepted when they get back to town. Okay, here's another one. 2001, March, Road to Blue Creek Road. Back on the Black Snake Ridge again. While driving Black Snake Ridge down to do some field work, they came across a large bipedal footprint going across Black Snake Ridge. They got out to investigate the tracks from heel to heel. The prints were 4.5 feet apart. Tracks were approximately 16 inches long. One track still head to toe impressions in it. And they counted 20 good tracks, and others were fading out. They shot some videos of the track and then went home. The next day, they went back to look for more in that location and found more across the road, but they were badly weathered. So, it seems like the Black Snake Ridge is the place to be investigating there in Walla Walla, Washington. That sure sounds for sure. Let's see here. Where else? Right here again. Right back up the nearest road on the Black Snake. Witness and friends up Black Snake Ridge in their SUV. They came to a stop. The witness, Stephanie, was looking in the area called Lard Gulch when she noticed what she said was a black-colored, upright walking primate. Witness said that the creature was approximately 7 to 8 foot tall and could see its arms swinging back and forth as it walked down a single ridge. She asked her friends to take a look with her spotting scope, but they were not able to take the time since they were watching a herd of elk on the Chloe Ridge. The Sasquatch walked down and into the woods, at which point she lost sight. Who doesn't stop to look at a Bigfoot? I would have been kicking the crap out of the, hey, elk will come back. Look at the damn Sasquatch. What's wrong with you people? Seriously, I lost my mind. I'd have been beating it until they actually looked at it. 2003, November, Walla Walla, Washington, Mill Creek Watershed. That's right, right back up there. Lewis Peak Road this time. The observer tells us that his dad got drawn for a big bull elk permit in the Mill Creek Watershed. He harvested a bull on November 1st off of Green Peak. They were packing out meat on Tuesday, November 4th in the late afternoon when they were taking our time following the trail back to Lewis Peak. They were about an hour of light left. They stopped at a rock outcropping to take a breather when they saw motion out of the corner of their eye. He told his dad that there was something coming across the opening, and we just previously crossed. I wasn't sure what it was, and it had moved behind a tree. As it continued across the ridge, I noticed that the animal was walking on two legs. The distance from where we were to the animal was approximately 500 yards. That's 5 football fields, and it was clearly a biped. We are very experienced hunters, 20 plus years for me and 40 for Dad, with a lot of time in the field. We have harvested many, many deer, elk, and bear. The animal walked upright and very quickly covered the distance across the opening, which was over a steep, loose shale part of the trail. The trail was covered with packed snow from foot and horse traffic, and it was fairly slippery in the cold weather. We had just crossed it and had to take our time with the backpacks to make sure that they did not slip. The animal crossed that opening very quickly with no apparent difficulty whatsoever. It appeared to be approximately 7 to 8 feet tall, very dark from head to toe. It did look in our direction, but did not stop to observe us. Wow. 7 to 8 foot tall Sasquatch crossing a ridge on, opposite of where you're at. Now, 500 yards is a fair piece to be estimating size from. I don't know that if anybody stood 500 feet or 5 football fields away from you, whether I could tell you how tall they were or not. But you could tell what color they were, and you could tell whether they were walking on 2 feet or not. So, maybe the distance wasn't quite as much as he was gaining, but it could be. After a quick debate about whether the heck they had just seen, noting that we were not carrying firearms at the time, and it was heading our direction, that we had 2 loads of elk parts on our packs, they quickly left the area. I watched the trails as my dad tied the packs to the 4-wheeler, but did not see anything come down trail. They also noticed that while hiking through the area for several days, they noticed an odd smell that was not familiar to any of the animal species that they had regularly encountered. So, wow. Those are some, contemporary times within the last 10, 15 years of encounters of people here in Walla Walla, Washington. But again, what would exactly be driving the old Reverend here to be Walla Walla, Washington? Well, there's one specific encounter that I really wanted to share with you guys tonight that people obviously forget. It's not even in the BFRO database, and that would be the Freeman encounter with, if you don't know who Paul Freeman was, there's some famous footage out there. Paul Freeman, August 10th, he was born August 10th, 1943, died April 2nd, 2003, was an American Bigfoot hunter who had claimed to have discovered Bigfoot tracks showing thermal ridges. That's right. He was one of the first casts that was out there that had thermal ridges in the plaster casts themselves. The plaster casts Freeman subsequently made were convincing enough to be considered critical pieces of evidence by anthropologist Dr. Grover Krantz and Dr. Jeff Meldrum, the Idaho State University foot doctor. That's right. Who both put time and resources into studying them. I guess Bigfoot is what they're talking, or the cats they're talking about. Others like Renee DeHinden and Bod Titmus thought Freeman was simply a hoaxer seeking attention. On June 10th, 1982, Freeman reportedly sighted a Bigfoot near Walla Walla, Washington, which he described as being nearly 8 feet tall and covered in reddish-brown hair. Then, in 1994, Freeman captured a purported Bigfoot on video near the Blue Mountains region. The footage is considered to be authentic by some Bigfoot investigators, but is considered to be of too low a resolution to be conclusive by most. It was also times by the Coney beer ads. That's right, old Renee DeHinden himself. Come drink the beer because it's good. Freeman died at his Airway Heights, Washington home at the age of 59 due to complications of diabetes. Sorry about that, Freeman. All right, so there's this really good interview. Somebody took the fine time to make this wonderful interview with him before he died, and unfortunately the audio is such shit that you can't even stand the first 5 minutes of it before it's like nails on a chalkboard. I couldn't listen to it, and it's sad because it was like probably the clearest information that we would have gotten about his footage. But let's share a picture here. This is a still out of that footage. Of course, that footage is copyrighted, so we don't want to break any copyright laws here. But you guys know which is about that. It walks past this big pine tree and kind of meanders down the hill. Oh, there he goes. It's on some footage. He was taking footage of doing some casting one day, and then there's some footage of his kid's birthday, and then all of a sudden there's this footage out there as he's following the tracks, these fresh tracks up the hill. The sucker steps out in front of him and walks down the hill. Now, Freeman doesn't have any money. And we've talked to Doug Hudson of Clone FX. That's KLNOFE, KLONEFX.com. A suit like this. So either he's in cahoots with somebody who has money to have a suit created, or somebody's hoaxing him. And nobody's ever stepped forward to claim the hoax against everybody. Oh, we hoaxed Freeman in the world with this footage. So we don't get anybody that comes forward. There's no payoff for this footage. And that's what makes it quite interesting to me. Now, there's a whole bunch of enhancements out there. And as we talked about last week, the more enhancement you do to something, the worse it looks. But this one it does give validity to the size of the creature. I mean, this thing, whatever it is big. And that's what's always impressed me about this footage. Plus the way it moves. It moves deliberately like a creature who walks upright through the woods a lot. It just moves one big step at a time. There's a lot of the pictures out here. Here's another still of it. It's kind of hard to see this one here, but it's where it's turned and the light is actually reflecting off of the backside of the hair, like, a healthy dog. If you've ever seen a dog who's well fed and well exercised, they have a bright, shiny coat that the sun will actually reflect off of and change different colors. Here's another one. This is where it starts to get a little weird. They start to point out that there's multiple Bigfoots in here, and there's a baby's infant's leg, and then maybe the parents carrying one. And Freeman himself says later in the video, oh, now there's two of them. Now, personally, I've looked at it on 40-inch screens, on 60-inch screens. I've never seen a second Bigfoot in the footage, but that doesn't mean that he didn't see it, because he must have been recording with like a Fisher Price video recorder, because the footage, even for 92, was really, really difficult to be able to tell. Now, here's a comparison of three of the famous footages that are out there. Of course, we've got the Patterson film here on the left, and like we talked about, the less enhancements you do on it, the more animal-like it looks. The same goes for the Freeman footage, but the size of the Freeman Bigfoot and the size of the Patty Bigfoot far changed the size of whatever that Memorial Day footage is. And eventually we'll get down to that one as well. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I don't know where Freeman would have gotten the money to make a suit. And we don't have anybody paying off, laughing at the world that they've hoaxed Freeman and hoaxed Krantz and hoaxed Dr. Meldrum. So where's the payoff if somebody else was hoaxing him? Or was it really just a chance that he kept finding footprints and just poked around one time often enough to have a chance encounter with a Sasquatch near Walla, Washington? Let's see here. Then we get, since Freeman was a park ranger, people give him a lot of credibility. And the only reason I added this picture into it, because I believe this picture also came to us from a park ranger. But what I know about grass makes that thing about 7 inches tall. So credibility doesn't come with a government job, but I think Freeman's credibility went further than what this poor guy's did. Finally, plaster casts of Freeman's feet that he was getting out of the mud, out of that clayish mud there that's in the video. If you actually watch it, you'd be able to tell. It looks like an animal who's trying to walk up a muddy slope. The toes are dynamic. They're not the same. And as we know now, they're not a direct copy of what a Bigfoot's foot looks like, but rather a direct copy of what their foot did in the soil while it was trying to move. And that, in this case, makes it even more interesting. But these are the ones that they say if you look at the heels on, actually have dermal ridges on them that run the wrong way from humans. They don't run the in the patterns and the swirls like humans do. They run long ways in the foot, which makes them unlike a human foot dermal ridge, but something in itself. Old Jimmy Choka from Texas. We learned that from him back in the days of Monster Quest because he was passionate about prints. He knew everything there was to know about prints. Old Jimmy Choka, him did. But yeah, in the long run and the short of it, let's take just a moment and think about it. If you're finding a bunch of prints, in your research area and you're just going to keep after it and keep following them, eventually something's going to walk out in front of it for you as well. And that, my friends, up for the season of encounters for Walla, Washington. I want to thank everybody, of course, for coming out and joining us tonight. A little bit shorter seasons of the seasons of encounter, but that's okay. It's going to be a fun season to keep up with. And as we always say, you don't have to go home, but you sure enough have to get up out of here. Thanks, everybody, for watching live, and we will see you next week on the season of encounters. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.